Okay, we're going to look in this lesson at plotting a point on a coordinate plane. So this is graph paper, if you've ever used it before. You can see on there how I've drawn this X and Y axis that I could use on this paper. If you have graph paper, it's awesome because it'll help you be a little more accurate, but it's not necessary by any means. So here are the key things you need to know. The first thing is that a point is always going to be written X comma Y. Always. Think of it, it's in alphabetical order. Okay, so it's X and then Y. This is called an ordered pair because it is a pair and it's always in order. It's always X and then Y. You don't have to wonder which is which. Always X comma Y. Okay, this is the X coordinate and this is the Y coordinate. C-O-O-R-D-I-N-A-T-E. So that's what I'm saying. Coordinate and Y coordinate. So those are the two coordinates. The other thing that's always the same when you see a graph, the horizontal line, the horizontal plane is always the X. It's called the X-axis, A-X-I-S. But that's always X, and that's always Y. So that's really important. Nail those facts down, that this is always X, this is always Y, and that an ordered pair is always X comma Y. Okay? So once we have that down, let's just take a number and look. Let's just think of something. Let's say I give you the point, the ordered pair, 3 comma 2. Well, I told you the first number is the X. So give me an educated guess. This is a positive number. Let me say this first. This is considered called the origin. It is the point 0 comma 0. Okay, because I did not go anywhere left or right. I didn't go any up or down. 0, 0. Everything starts from there. It's the origin. Now, 3 on the horizontal plane. Give me an educated guess. Would a positive 3 go right or left? I heard you say right, and you're correct. Just think of the number line, right? So 1, 2, 3. So I'd go over 3. Now, the 2 I told you is the Y. So it's going to be the up and down. Again, educated guess. What do we think is positive? Up or down? Up. Very good. So we're over 3, up 2. And that is the point 3 comma 2. Let's think this through then. Suppose I ask you to plot negative 3, 2. Well, again, let me just write this here. You could write this at the top of your paper so you don't forget. It's always X and then Y. So my X is negative 3. So my X-axis is going to be negative. So I'm going left 3. My Y, oh, I'm still going positive 2 though. So I'm still going up 2. So that's the point negative 3, 2. Let's keep following this pattern. Suppose I have negative 3 and negative 2. Negative 3, so I'm going left, 1, 2, 3, and then my Y is negative, which is down. So I'd come down to here. So it'd be negative 3, negative 2. And then the last thing that we've not done yet would be, what if the X is positive, but the Y is negative? Well, X is positive 3, positive 1, 2, 3. But Y is negative 2, so I go down 2. And this is the point 3, negative 2. So take a look at that for just a second and see if you can understand the pattern on how that works. When you're plotting a point, always start with X and just think it through. Just think, okay, is it positive or negative? So my first move is always going to be left or right, unless it's 0, and I'll show you that. But it's always going to be left or right, and then look at my Y. Don't try and do them both at the same time. Think one piece and then the other. This may help you. Some people love this, some people don't. If it helps, yay, and if it doesn't, ignore it. You see that this area here, this is 1/4 of this area. It's actually called a quadrant, this area here. It's the first quadrant. They won't ask you on the test. But this quadrant, in this quadrant, X is always positive, and Y is always positive. Okay, in this second quadrant, the second fourth, think about it. What happens with x? It's negative, but y is positive. In this third quadrant right here, this third fourth, x is always negative and y is always negative. And in this fourth quadrant right here, positive. X is positive, y is negative. So if that helps, write that down and think it through that way. But just if you think piece by piece, positive is always right and positive is always up. And then I can figure negative out from there. The other thing that sometimes helps is to look at this. Your x, your first thing, is going to tell you whether you're going right or left. And then your y is going to tell you whether you're going up or down. So go always do your x and then your y, and hopefully you won't get them confused by doing it that way. So take a look at this for a second and think it through. Now I want you to imagine something. Suppose I graphed this point right here. Look, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I graphed that point right there on the x-axis. Well, how far did I go over for my left or right on my x? I went over 5. And how much did I move on my up or down? I did not. So it's 0. So that is the point 5, 0. So you can have points that lie on the coordinate plane. What if I did it over here? 1, 2, this is negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. And I plotted that point. What would be the coordinates? Well, it'd be negative 5 for my x. And then notice again, y is still 0. I didn't move. What if I did this? 3, 4, 5 on the y plane. Well, how far did I go on x? I did not move at all. So that's 0. And then I came up a positive 5. And you can guess where I'm going on this next one. 1, 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Right here. How far did I move x or y? None. So that's 0. But then y, I'm sorry, how far did I move x? Y, I moved a negative 5. I came down. Negative 5. So if you get a point that has 0 as either one of the coordinates, you know it's going to sit on an axis. You following this? So let me give you a few points, and let's just look randomly at them. Suppose I gave you the point, and it's going to get a little messy, but I want to show you a few more of these. Let's say I had 6, 4. And by the way, I'm keeping my numbers smaller just because I have to draw the hash marks over. I could plot 100. I could do x could be 100 and y could be negative 100. It'd just be off my board. So I'm just trying to stay smaller just so it's easier to count. It doesn't have to be though. So 6, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I go over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. I go up 4. So that would be the point 6, 4. Okay. How about negative 5, negative 3? Do my x first. So I go negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 5. Negative 3, go negative 1, negative 2, negative 3 would be down here. Negative 5, negative 3. Okay, what about negative 6, positive 5? Negative 6, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, but positive 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that would be negative 6 and positive 5. And then the other thing I've not plotted so far is, let's suppose I had positive 5. Let's go positive 5, negative 5. How about that? Positive 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be right there. That would be the point 5, negative 5. Kind of following that? It's a definite pattern. That's a nice thing. That's why they are ordered pairs. There is an order. It's always X and then Y. Now, a couple of simple things I want to show you in case it showed up on the test. Occasionally, they might do a graph where, you know, I've done each of these hash marks off as 1. If you had graph paper, you'd probably number them as 1. But especially if you're dealing with a bigger number. Let's say I make each one of my marks have a value of 5. Well, then I would stay consistent with that on all of my hash marks, that I'm counting by 5s. Okay. So if you got on the test and you notice, oh wait, they're counting each block by 5s, well, then we can deal with that, right? So let's suppose I had this point right here, and I know it's harder looking on the screen, but let's get kind of accurate here. Well, what do I come over? I came over 5, 10, I came over 15, and I went up 5. So this would be the point 15, comma 5. See how that works? Okay, especially again, if they were doing a bigger number, they're counting by 10s because they're going to do 60, 70 or something. Just see what they're using to plot it out. I've seen a couple of times on practice problems where what they count by is 2s. So you need to pay attention to that. 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. They will do the same thing. Whatever they name it, whatever they go with on the x-axis, it'll be that on the y. Guaranteed. It has to be. So let's say I wanted to plot the point 2, negative 4. Well, 2 is right over here. Negative 4 would be negative 2, negative 4. So it'd be right down there. So that would be 2, negative 4. So just be a little aware by looking at what they've numbered off to see. Most of the time we do it by 1s. But I've seen a couple of situations where they've not done it that way. So you just want to be aware of that. I don't want you to be tricked by that. Now let me show you the way this is most likely to show up on the test. Because the computer program is not written where you could literally plot a point, this is what I see on the practice questions the most often for this. Mine aren't going to be perfectly graphed because I know I haven't drawn everything perfectly to scale, but you'll be able to tell what point it is. What I've seen before is it might be something like this. Maybe there's these points written on here, and what they will say is which point represents, which letter represents the point negative 2, negative 5. Okay, so I've got to think through. We know it can't actually be any of these, right? Because I've got negative 2. These are all positive. Negative 2. Here's negative 2, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The answer to negative 2, negative 5 would be E. So that's the way I see it most often on practice tests, is there'll be several points listed on a grid, and they'll ask you which one has that coordinate. The other thing they might do is they might say, what is the ordered pair, or the coordinate pair? What is the ordered pair for, it doesn't matter, any of them, for D? And then, of course, because it's multiple choice, you would have, maybe they had the answers 2, 5, negative 2, 5, negative 5, negative 2, and negative 5, 2. Oops, I already have that one, negative 5, let's go negative 5, negative 2. So all I gotta do is look at D and say, okay, here's D, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, positive 1, positive 2. Negative 5, positive 2. But do you see how there were several different variations that it's like, I've got to know what I'm doing. I've got to pay attention to whether I'm counting my X or Y first. I've got to think through. Now let's go negative 5, and I went up 2, positive 2. So you would, that would be the answer. You would click on that answer right there. So you're going to need to get some solid practice with these. So I'm going to put some more problems up on a practice sheet. If you have grid paper, that's great, graph paper. If you don't, that's okay too. Let me just plot a few for you to keep you hopefully seeing this pattern. All right, let's do 3, 3, negative 4. 1, 2, 3, positive 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the point, 3, negative 4. Let's do negative 2, 5. Negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 2, positive 5. Negative 1, negative 3. Negative 1, negative 3. 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Positive 1. 0, 3. No movement because it's 0, positive 3. Negative 2, 0. Negative 2, but then no movement up or down because it's 0. Negative 6, negative 3. Negative 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 6, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Negative 6, negative 3. 5, negative 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 1. 0, negative 2. Over 0, oops, down here, negative 2. You seeing the pattern, how these work? On the test, if they did not have it counted out, typically what I see is that it's the grid. It looks like the graph paper. It looks like this, okay, with all the little the grid marks. So you can see perfectly. But if it didn't, it would be something that you would be able to identify. Like, look at this. If I were to plot these points, A, B, C, and D. And I asked you which letter represents the point 3, negative 3. Well, positive, I go right. Negative, I go down. So my answer is going to be D. So I can look at that and just based on the signs. But look at this, guys. I plotted all 4 possibilities. These are all, this is over here, positive 3, positive 3. This is negative 3, positive 3. This is negative 3, negative 3. And this was positive 3, negative 3. So you had to know where your positives and negatives were to be able to graph this. But even if they didn't have the hash marks, as soon as I see a positive and a negative, I can figure out that it's going to be down in this quadrant here. So I will put some practice problems on the test, on the D2L. I'll put them on the next tab. If you have graph paper, that's awesome. If you don't worry about it. Just do what I did. Just draw your X and Y axis. It's always helpful to immediately label it X and Y. At the top of your paper, write X, comma, Y. So you've got that all straight, okay? And then you can just kind of make little hash marks and you try to space them out as evenly as possible. You can tell I've not done a perfect job. I definitely didn't, like right here, but just try and be relatively accurate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Something like that. And that's why I'm having to count it over and then count up and match it up, since I don't have the lines. If you had the grid, I could literally get over here and then count my way up to whatever my next number is. So get good practice at this. There'll be a couple of questions on the test, I'm sure, that'll deal specifically with points. So it'll be just like the things that we've done. And that's super important. We want to get all those points we can, right? And this is the easier point question. Easier question on a point, I guess would be a better way to say that. This will be the easier one, for sure, to understand this. Then we're going to take these and we're going to build on this to create lines, to find the slope of a line, to plot a line, to determine the points on a line. So please understand this really well, because this is foundational to all those other things I just mentioned. Anything you do on the coordinate plane, on this graph like this, on a grid, is going to work around a point and the concept of a point. So be super sure that you're good on x is positive, left x is negative, y is positive, y is negative. Understand that really well. So understand this right here, and understand that it's always x and then y. So do all the assignment that I'm going to give you here. I'll give you the practice, and then of course I'll post the answers. So be sure you work through that. Reach out to me if you have any questions. But nail this down, because we're going to keep building on it.